If you've got a question, the voices of resin are here. Oh, PlastChicks.
PlastChicks is an SPE sponsored podcast. Hi,
Hey,
Mercedes.
How's it going?
You're so glamorous and sparkly today. I love it. It just makes me so happy.
Oh, this little thing, I just threw it right on.
This is your casual Friday afternoon outfit. I'm Lynzie Nebel.
I'm Mercedes Landazuri. And with our powers combined, we are PlastChicks.
The voices of resin.
Yeah.
I just took that straight from you. It's fine. It's Friday afternoon. It's nice out. Well, at least it's nice here. I feel like we're a little extra punchy. I slept like a full 6 hours last night. I'm ready to take on the world today. So
that's luxurious, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's the best kind of day. So you can listen to our podcast the first Friday of every month, anywhere you get a podcast. I feel like I'm skipping over stuff today. I think that goes with the punchiness.
I think you're doing such a good job right now, Lynzie. So yeah, our podcasts are released the first Friday of every month. You can get us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all the podcast places. Just search for PlastChicks.
Or if you want to see us and see the sparkly shirt that Mercedes is wearing, you can catch us on YouTube as well. So, okay, well, we got all the important stuff out of the way. We have no major announcements.
No, you can find us on Instagram also if you want to write us a quick note or something, a love note or a hate note.
We take them personally. You will be upset for days. Well, today I am super jazzed about who we have on our podcast because so Sherrika is someone that I have been on the DEI Advisory Board with for 2 years now, I feel like.
Yeah.
And she is someone that every time like a name gets brought up, like who would be really good at this? It's like, well, Sherrika. She's amazing. And I feel like I am constantly throwing your name out there. And so I'm just really excited to selfishly have you on the podcast for a full 45 minutes or however long we talk. So I
am also jazzed. That's why I wore my jazz jacket.
Yes.
But yeah, and Sherrika and I, Dr. Sherrika and I got to meet at the Girl Scouts event.
Yes.
North Texas, yeah.
Oh, see, now that makes me extra jealous.
Yeah, I just want to throw that in there for you, Lynzie.
All right. Well, welcome, Sherrika. Thank you so much for joining us. You are the Senior Technical Engineer at Manor Polymers. We should throw your title out there. You are more than just a super cool person. And can you just tell us a little bit about your background, a little bit about what you do at Manor Polymers?
Sure. So first, thank you for having me on your podcast. I always watch from the sidelines and kind of wish, hey, I wish I could be cool with them. So I was so excited when you reached out and said, hey, we want to do the podcast with us. So yeah, I'm Sherrika Sanders, and as you stated, Senior Technical Engineer here at Manor Polymers. And what I do is I actually wear quite a few hats, but mainly it's product development, entering into new markets. We only compound flexible PVC, so everything is flexible PVC related. I go to customers, I troubleshoot, I run extruders, I develop new products here on our compounding lines. And visit customers and do all the things diversity related for the company and outside of the company and volunteer efforts.
So at some point you go home at the end of the day. That feels like a lot.
At some point I go home. And a lot of times this stuff actually happens from home.
So you said you do all of the things diversity related. You don't have any help over there?
Well, yeah, actually we do. So what we have, and we actually had it this week. It's called Manor Polymers Day, where we bring in the SPE STEM clubs, and they spend the day with us. And we have an entire team that helps pull this thing off. And this week we had 50 kids come through. And what the day entails is we bring the kids in and they go through rotations. The rotations would include an R&D rotation, a quality rotation, a sales call and rotation, and a scheduling rotation. So essentially they help us run the company for the day. They do their own mixes. In the R&D lab, they go and they pull samples from the quality, from the lines for us for quality testing. They learn how to schedule production runs. So what should I run on this line? Am I going to only be running clear plastic? Am I going to be running blacks? Am I going to be running different colors? And then how do I fit them into the schedule? And they actually look at the ship dates and when it needs to go out. And then they make a sales call. So this one is kind of pre-set up before they actually get here, right? So we set it up to where they have a script that they follow. The customer basically says, hey, I sent you some pellets. Can you make me a manner match? And then they go into the lab, they run an FTIR spectra of these pellets, they go through our database, they pick one, then they go to our controller and say, hey, this is the product I want to recommend to this customer. Can you tell me how much to quote it? You know, how much should we sell it for? So they go through the whole exercise of gross margin and quoting products and the whole nine. And then they do, like I said, the scheduling piece of it. And of course they do a plant tour. So as you can imagine, that takes more than just me to make this happen, especially with 50 kids coming through. So the Manor team has been phenomenal in helping with the diversity efforts of McKinney ISD, which is our local school district, and helping them just feel welcome and to aim for STEM careers. And the program itself is really cool because it's diverse, right? We target kids to where, you know, they wouldn't have otherwise had this opportunity to do something like this. So it's super cool that everybody wants to put in a helping hand to kind of make it happen. So no, I don't do it by myself, but you know, it's just, I just kind of like bring in the ideas and say, hey, who wants to help?
That's amazing.
Really good.
That's amazing. And they really get to do so much hands-on stuff. I mean, it sounds like they got to do more in the lab than I get to do lately in the lab.
Right.
I'm super jealous that they got to do the PIR work.
Right.
I saw you were making a little face. Was it because you were thinking of how cute it was, or were you like, because you're so scared of running PVC yourself?
Well, yes to all of the above. No, I love the idea of, you know, especially kids, you know, we talk about all the time, and I'm probably going to skip around a little bit here, but like, we talk about kids not having exposure to plastic other than hearing that plastic is bad for the environment and having, you know, no other context around it. And, you know, even doubly so, I feel like if you know a little bit about plastic, you always hear, well, PVC is the worst one, you know?
Right.
So I feel like you're fighting a double battle here. And I just picture all these little kids coming in and like finally kind of, you know, seeing that it's not this like evil empire from the Lorax, which my kids have been watching a lot of lately, and I try and turn it to something else. But, and you know, I think it's such a great idea. And you mentioned the STEM clubs are the ones that are coming in. Can you touch on that, because that's, I know, a big part of, you know, kind of what the SPE Foundation has, you know, contributed to as well.
Absolutely. So I always start off this story so one day I had this dream that, okay, hey, these kids, you know, I could have some type of impact on, you know, the community around me, or, you know, local schools, school districts. And then I saw this little blurb pop up on LinkedIn one day, and it was basically a call for people who felt like they could contribute and serve in a diversity, equity, and inclusion capacity for Society of Plastics Engineers Foundation. So I'm like, yay. And before I could even, you know, raise my hand to do it, my boss, he said, hey, did you see that post on LinkedIn? That's right up your alley. You know, you should go for that. And so I sent the note out and we went through the whole process. And while I didn't know that all these things would kind of come together all at once, they really did. So Eve Vitale, who is also on the board, she was talking about what they were doing in Detroit. and what they were doing in Florida at the time. And I was thinking, oh, that would be so great for us to have here in McKinney. And so we set out, and it just so happened that Manor Polymers was already a business partners liaison with the school district. And so we had some contacts there that we could reach out to and say, hey, this is what we have. Would you like, to do it? And they were geeked about it. They were like, yes. So, and I was going 90 to nothing. I'm like, let's do all the schools at once. And they were like, hold on. Let's do a pilot school first, see how it works out, and then we'll, grow from there. And so how we start out the program is that all of our PlastiVan educators come to McKinney, Texas, and we do a big PlastiVan day for all of the sixth graders. So we service all of the sixth grade classes for that school for the day. We do all the teaching. We offer a positive plastics education, right? And we start off the day with, in each class with, what is it that you think about plastics? Good or bad, and, of course we get all the bad things because that's what they see on TV.
Because the Lorax.
Exactly. And so we're like, okay, well, that's great. We're going to talk about this so that you can walk away with an accurate perception of what plastics really is and the contributions that plastics brings to our society and the areas that we truly do need to work on as an industry. And so that they can walk away, being more informed about polymer science in general. From that day, we take note of the kids who are super interested and geeked about what we're doing and what we're offering. And then we invite them to join the STEM club. And then as part of their kickoff for the STEM club is a visit to Manor Polymers. And that's part of the thing that kind of gets them going, and they're already excited for the following school year. And they're already asking questions about, okay, so are we going to do some of this same stuff in STEM club? And they actually do. So our last year's STEM club, they did some of the same stuff that we did on the PlastiVan day, except they make it more real world applicable. For example, for the polyurethane chemistry, they made hockey pucks, and we actually set up a hockey game in the classroom and use the pucks that they made from polyurethane foam. And then we did the polycaprolactone experiment that you guys have probably seen a million times, where we take the polycaprolactone, we heat it up, and then we mold it into whatever we want to mold it into, just to show them thermoplastics versus thermosets. And they actually made their own forks and spoons. So their parents sent pictures the following day, like, what is this my kid is eating breakfast with?
You're like, it's fine.
Yeah, so they get to use the things that they learn within STEM Club. And that's how it starts out. It starts out with a big PlastiVan day, and we just take it from there. We currently have about 75 kids in the program, 25 sixth graders and about 50 seventh graders.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So Sherrika, you are not just Sherrika Sanders, you are Dr. Sherrika Sanders, right?
Correct.
You're one of the highest levels of education, right? Do you think that having such a big accomplishment to your name helps this type of like young potential STEMers to see themselves in the career in the future?
Absolutely. So I didn't know that when I decided to get my PhD in chemistry that, I would have this type of impact. I honestly, at the time, just thought it would be something that I enjoyed doing. I didn't have it in my mind at the time, over 20 something years ago, that, this would be a platform that I could actually use to bring other females to science. Until one day, just right before graduation, I had a mentor come and tell me, you probably won't even be doing much science. And I go, excuse me? Because this is kind of like,
I'm literally a doctor of science right now.
And she told me, she said, you're probably going to end up using this more as a platform to bring others to science. And I go, okay, more, give me more, give me more. And she says, one, because she says, I've watched you over the course of this program, and you're not a typical scientist, meaning that you're personable. So one thing is that we get, scientists kind of get a bad rap because, they're all about the chemicals, they're all about the lab, and then they don't really relate well to others, right? It's just all about the report writing. It's very analytical in thought and not very personable, so to speak, just not to use that word again, but that's essentially what it is. And so she said, you have that, plus you have the analytic side. So you bring that together, and then you have someone who's very special in that they could actually recruit others to the field and to the industry. And so I thought it was pretty cool that, that was it was a seed that was planted. So of course, as a new scientist, I'm working only in science and never getting the opportunity to do the things that I'm doing now. So it was cool that, she stopped me and said that so that I could at least have it in the back of my head. So when the opportunity came up, I could actually use it.
So when you get a lab with windows or doors, you can.
But that's great to have somebody, who's really, mentor or, guru, somebody who's like really seeing your potential before you even recognize it yourself.
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And
that's one of the things that's cool, right? So because I had someone stop and see it in me, it kind of awakened, so to speak, something in me to be able to see it in other kids. Mm-hmm. And so it just kind of transcended into something that was more of a, okay, I'm leaving a legacy, but also developing a future generation of scientists to also continue to leave that legacy behind.
It's just a beautiful chain effect of killing it. And speaking of, is one of the really cool things that you were a big part of, and we definitely need the backstory and all the details on this, was you are responsible for developing small molecules to authenticate fuel and consumer goods. Yes. I mean, that's like not small potatoes. I mean, small molecules, but
well,
not
it's very, very small. The smallest potatoes.
It's right. Small.
Right. And it doesn't matter where anyone sits from my perspective in terms of faith and religion and all these things. But for me, you asked for the backstory behind this. I definitely think it was the hand of God just leading me and opening doors and opening up different opportunities. And so that particular project was nothing that I ever thought that I would be doing. And it was kind of a quickie dink how I ended up there. So I had been with the Dow Chemical Company at that time for probably 10 years. And I thought I was always going to be a Dow kid. I loved working there. I started in Michigan. I climbed the ranks fairly quickly with a lot of backing and a lot of mentors, that had come alongside me from the very beginning. And then one day I reconnected with the guy I went to high school with. And we got married. Started a family. Got married, started a family, but the unfortunate part was that he was up here in the Arlington area. I was down South Texas in the Houston area. So in the very beginning, we just kind of did this back and forth thing. We were commuting back and forth, but we were young and it didn't really wear on us that much. No big deal. I'll just come up for the weekend, you come down for the week, that deal. But then when we decided to expand our family and started having kids, it was just kind of like, oh no, this doesn't work so well anymore, And I remember vividly one day I got up, and I always used to get the kids ready first, and then I would get myself ready. Well, this little baby, after I'm fully dressed, suit all ready for my meeting, spits up down my back, and I literally lost it. And I called my husband on my way to work, and I said, somebody is going to move, and I mean today. He goes, okay, hold on, let's not make any rash decisions, we'll make it happen.
Like, okay, you got 12 hours.
right, pack your bags, or I'm packing hours, it doesn't matter. And we decided, okay, so whoever finds a job first will move. And I had been with Dow so long. He had been with General Motors probably 15 years at the time. And so I found a job first, and it was with a company in Addison, Texas, where they said, "Hey, we saw your resume at a conference that we went to, and wondered if you like to move to the Dallas area." And I'm thinking, "Are you kidding me? Yes, I'm trying to get to the Dallas area. Well, what is it that you want me to do?"
Absolutely. When's my first day? Oh, what's your company?
Right. Yeah, I'll move. Now tell me what you need me to do after I say I'll move. And that's where they said, okay, we need someone who has analytical experience. And at the time, I was running Dow physical testing labs globally. So I had labs in Freeport, I had labs in Terneuzen, in Spain, just Tarragona, everywhere. And so the analytical piece was there for me. What I had to pull from my graduate experience was actually the development of the small molecules. And so combined with what I did in graduate school, the inorganic chemistry piece, with what I had been doing with Dow for probably 5 years at the time, made the perfect candidate for the job that they were looking for. And so when I started with the company, I think they had in the works maybe 3 molecules that they were working with. By the time I left that company and came to Manor Polymers, we had a suite of 3 different sets of types of molecules. So approximately about 36 molecules that myself and my team developed to be able to authenticate fuel anywhere in the world. And the way this works is that you go to that country and you deposit this molecule, and it's invisible to the eye. You deposit this molecule into their fuel stream, and if that molecule shows up anywhere else in the world, that country can then prosecute and recoup funds for stolen fuel.
That is
Wow.
And so we were able to recoup millions of dollars for different countries as these molecules started to show up in different parts of the world. And that's how you defend it in court. You take your analytical science and you say, hey, this molecule was deposited in this country. There's no way it should be over there, and they were able to prosecute and get their money back. And in terms of consumer goods, one of my baby projects that I like to talk about, and no pun intended, was Johnson & Johnson baby lotion. So it is marked with a small molecule. Because of course, at the time, I think I had a 10-month-old, right? So babies were really, really super important to me. And I'm like, I don't want anybody doing anything, making these false products that could potentially harm children.
Right?
And so we
marked up on a new outfit, like fresh outfit.
Stuff like that.
Right, exactly. And so we partnered with Johnson & Johnson, and we marked their baby products. Yeah, so that they could find out if anybody was counterfeiting any baby products in the world and labeling them as Johnson & Johnson. They know whether or not it's their product or not.
Wow, that's really cool. I just heard about Heinz developing, I'm in Pennsylvania, so of course it's ketchup related, developing a label so that the color matches the ketchup, and if it doesn't match, then you're supposed to know it's like counterfeit. And I never realized how big of an issue that kind of stuff can be. I guess surface level I did, but thinking about that, having a counterfeit baby lotion, I would not like that. I would not be a fan.
Right. And it's out there, believe it or not, which is one of the reasons Johnson & Johnson decided to spend the money to make sure that their brand was protected. And it falls under the umbrella of brand protection. So anytime, you have a large brand, everybody's going to want to make a Me Too, right? But you want your brand to be your brand. For example, Shell is a brand, right? They sell fuel, and they want their package to be their package, and if anything ever goes wrong and someone tries to sue them, they can say whether or not it was their fuel or not.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. I have to ask a question that kind of goes back and skips over the really coolness of what you just explained to us. But I know you and your husband were looking for jobs at that time, and basically this company approached you.
Mhm.
One thing I think we've all heard the studies about how women typically don't apply for jobs unless they think they have met the requirements like 90 to 100% or more, whereas men will apply for jobs at, a lesser percentage and say, figure out the rest.
Mhm.
Looking back on that job, if the situation were, you just casually looking and not looking so that way you don't lose your mind in the morning, do you think you would have applied for that job, or do you think you would have said, I don't know if I have that graduate experience, I haven't done that, that's not something in my wheelhouse right now, I'm not going to apply for that job? I'm kind of interested to know where you would have fallen in that.
I probably would not have at that time. If I think about who I was at the time and what I was thinking, I probably would not have applied for that job because of what you just said. I don't think I meet the requirements. This is not something, that's in my wheelhouse per se. Not something that I don't think that I would be good at it, I don't think I would have seen that in myself at the time. Today, if you had asked me that question, would I have applied for that job? Absolutely, I would have applied for that job. And I say that also because when I saw the job posting for Manor Polymers, because Authentics, the company that I was working for, was sold. And everybody knows when you're now bought by another private equity firm, they have different goals, different things. So they were just like, R&D, we don't need that, So I was like, oh, let me find me something else.
What's the point?
Yeah. And so when I was out and I was looking for, what's the next thing, I saw this job at Manor and it had said engineer. I'm a chemist. But I applied for it anyway.
Nice.
I'm like, yeah, I think I can do that. I think I would want to do that. I wanted to kind of get back to the bench because I was doing a lot of people leading, which is totally fine. But I kind of wanted to get my hands dirty again. And so I saw this job and came in and I was like, yeah, I can go back to the dark side of plastics. Because I had been working in polyolefins for quite some time, polypropylene, polyethylene, EPDM. And so this brought me into the world of PVC, which I actually have been working against for almost about 10 years. So
oh, wow.
Replacement projects. So how can we replace PVC with polyethylene, polypropylene? And so I was able to learn about PVC then, but now I'm on the other side of things where I'm actually pushing PVC and implementing PVC applications. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Skidmore, and I'd like to share with you SPE's Certificate in Leadership. Have you heard about the program? In this program, participants learn about essential leadership and management principles, such as organizational culture, financial intelligence, strategic planning, innovation, and more. But they not only learn the topics, they learn how to apply strategies and tools to their team, their department, and organization. I invite you to visit forspe.org to learn more about the Certificate in Leadership and to apply for an upcoming cohort.
So what, for some of our listeners who, because, a lot of people, I remember texting with Lynzie and another friend of ours about molding some different materials in the lab and materials that might be scarier than others. And we definitely PVC came up. But what kind of applications do you say? So what kind of applications have you found that our PVC is really well suited for? Because it does get a bad name in the industry. And then Apple swore it off for all of their wire and cable applications. And but where are some applications that you think it's just really, really the perfect polymer to use?
I would say building and construction, wire and cable. So if you're looking for a product that's highly flame retardant, so PVC is going to be more flame retardant than your other polymers, right? So especially like your polyethylene or more flame retardant in your polyolefins, just on a general basis. And then you can extend that thermal stability and flame retardancy of it by using, of course, additional additives. So it's going to work really, really well. It's going to meet. So for example, think about it this way. So if you think about building wire and cable, but then you also think about building and construction as a whole, there are applications where you need to, your walls and everything need to meet certain flame retardancy requirements, right? So if you have a warehouse that you need to divide and you don't want to put up actual walls, you can put up PVC sheet and divide off, say like a warehouse with PVC clear sheet that will maintain the same type of rating as an actual wall being there.
Wow, I had no idea.
So if you go into an Amazon warehouse, if you go into a lot of different of the big box and big name warehouses, you will see it divided with sheets. That's PVC sheet. And it has an E84 rating just as a wall would. So building and construction is really huge for us, and not just the wire and cable aspect of it, but also other types of calendared products, calendared applications, which would be a sheet product. We just did a really cool one. In Pennsylvania, there was a rash of soccer goalies who were coming up with lymphoma, right? And so they started to dig and dig and dig and say, okay, what's going on here with this? And it was actually the infill in the artificial turf that was made of ground tire rubber. Now, in the US, we have rules and regulations as to what can go into our tires. Other places do not. So when the infill comes in to put into the artificial turf, there's no telling where it comes from. Well, they found that a lot of the ground tires had heavy metals like arsenic and different things like that. So as these kids were sliding, skinning their knees, heavy metals getting into their bloodstream, they started noticing just an influx of cancer. And so they reached out to the plastics industry and they started using a lot of different, what are they calling alternative infills, but we just supplied millions and millions of pounds of PVC infill. So it's foamed pellets to replace the ground tire that does not impact children the same way, or anybody that's playing sports and they require infill in their artificial turf. So that's another good place for it to go.
Yeah, I would go ahead and say that's a pretty big win right there.
Yeah. I took a picture of the day. Yeah, took a picture of the day, like the first, I think it was 350,000 pounds. It was 7 trucks of infill that left our plant. I was like, yay, that's me.
Listen, we love a good plastic selfie.
Right.
Oh, I love that so much. And I think, that's one of those stories that, when you're doing these types of like getting back to like being a STEM advocate and you're talking to some of these kids, like maybe the impact on them, they think, okay, like, great, you made our infield safer, and they don't register the importance of it. But now you're actually talking to their parents, and where they're hearing a lot of this is, oh, well, the parents have heard plastic is bad. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. And now all of a sudden you're saying, oh, well, that sport you play, like, we're actually saving your life here. Right? So, with those kind of impactful stories, do you see a lot more parents resisting STEM, before they hear these kind of stories? Do you have to kind of win the parents over in some of these advocacy programs?
Fortunately, no, I've not had to do a lot of winning over. So, and if I'm being completely honest, it's more so the parents are intrigued when I walk in the room, because they're like, okay, wait, this is the lady that's running the program. Okay, let me see what she's about. Like, I mean, because they're used to the white male that's coming to, promote a program. So most of the time here in Texas, when I'm introduced as a hidden figure because our a congresswoman in 2017 recognized the contributions over my career that I've had on STEM and advocacy for our children, and named me a hidden figure of Dallas. So when I come, they're like, okay, first, who is she? And then when I'm introduced, they're like, tell me more, So, and then you can tell the stories, you can, talk about, this is where this career has led me. And I always, speak to the kids as well from the perspective of, I know what we're working against. We're working against, you want to be the next LeBron James. You want to be the next Beyonce and Jay-Z. And I'm like, and this career is just as cool. We get paid too.
You can wear sparkly jackets.
You still can.
Right. And dance and all, and then you can get into the data analytics and things like the TikTok platforms and the things that they're interested in. The coding, one recently that won the kids over, and not so much the parents, but that won the kids over, is that we had them bring a picture of themselves, and then we created their own avatars from those pictures, and they were able to operate in the metaverse with each other with the avatar that they created of themselves. And so, that kind of brings them into the STEM fold of different things that they're like, okay, well, that's kind of cool. I can use STEM for, more than just, being a scientist. This is math. This is engineering. This is all the things that, I'm already playing with anyway. So why not, use it for something beneficial? And then the way that the parents are easily won over is that, I always speak from the heart of, I'm doing this because not only do I want to just impact your child, but I'm looking to change the trajectory of their life, which then changes the trajectory of the family, which then changes the trajectory of the community. Right. And so once they hear that, the wheels start turning like, okay, this is something that can, not only help my child, but it's going to help the family and it's going to help the community. And at the end of the day, that's what we all want.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So did you change the trajectory of your family, or do you come from a long line of PhDs?
No, I did not come. Yeah, I'm actually the first PhD in my family. My parents were, I would say I changed the trajectory in terms of just getting an education and using that education to help others. So my family, they were super, super hard workers. My mom retired from General Motors after 34 years. But, when you look at how hard she had to work, so she worked on the manufacturing line, and, I look at her today and, it's just like, I wish you didn't have to work that hard, to provide for us. I mean, we had a lot of things. We're a middle-class family, but it was because my parents worked really, really hard, so how about instead of using brawn, use brains, so I would say, it changed the trajectory in terms of that. So we're all really, really hard workers, but not necessarily now. We're more so on the path of using your brain instead of your brawn and wearing your body down over time. My dad has worked in an oil refinery for as long as I can remember. So, he retired this past December, and now he's a consultant and he does all the training. But again, you're a chemical engineer and you're working in an oil refinery, but you're climbing tanks all day. You're out in the heat, you're out in the sun, let's figure out another way to have a great path and bring income into our family without having to beat our bodies down so much. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say would be the difference between my parents and my brother and myself. My brother's a pharmacist. He also attended Xavier University in Louisiana, right 6 years after me. And so now he's killing it in the pharmacy industry, big pharma, and, doing his thing. And just a good place to be.
Wonderful. Yeah. Brain over brawn too, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that because I think the brain and the brawn thing, you know, I come from a family where my dad was a blue collar worker and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, you know, random office jobs type deal as we were older. And, you know, when I said I was going to go into engineering, it was like, engineering, like why? And, you know, I think with, you know, to me, if I was, you know, looking at someone that was accomplished and a female and, you know, and as you were saying before, like an African-American woman in the STEM field, where what I think I looked up the stats, the EEOC says there's only 15% of women in STEM are African-American. And like, that's not out of 100% of people in STEM.
You're right.
15% of women.
Right. Are yeah. So, you know, to have someone that's, you know, showing up and displaying all these really great accomplishments and, you know, showing that the brain part is not just as easy, but it is a viable path for someone like you. You know, I think that's just really, it gives me all the good feels. Maybe I'm just extra hormonal being so pregnant, but
oh no, I've gotten goosebumps too.
Okay, good. We're on the same page.
You talked about being a hidden figure of Dallas, and when I think of hidden figures, I'm always reminded of the Matilda effect, which is something it was identified. I'm trying to remember in the 60s or 70s, somebody published a paper on it, but it was going back like hundreds and hundreds of years. Where I don't know if you have a more eloquent way to describe it, a quick definition of Matilda effect, but just when a woman is doing the work or has some innovation or discovery, and her name is put after a man's or sometimes even removed from that body of work. Again, if you have a better way to quickly describe it, but have you ever experienced the Matilda effect or had others try to attribute your successes to some of these challenging projects you've worked on?
Actually, no. And then I've thought about this often and just wondered why this has never happened to me. And I think it has a lot to do with initially in my career, I would say I was extremely naive. You know, I would say that I wasn't as guarded as I am now. And it actually worked to my advantage. For example, early on in my career, my boss at the time, she said, okay, I'm going to give you this product line. I need you to take all the tech service, monitor these accounts, do new product development for this particular product line. Well, of course, there were all males in this group working on this product line. And so the same day that she told me that, she said, I found out that they were having a meeting. So I just went to the meeting. Naive me, who invites themselves to a meeting? Me. So I walk in and the guy who had been there a number of years, he was like, oh, we're having this meeting, da, 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 da. We'll bring you up to speed later. I was like, oh, just sit in now.
Don't worry about it. I got time.
I mean, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'll just sit in now. And the room just went silent. Ooh. Now, when I think back on that, I know why. But at the time, I was just kind of like, this is what my boss told me to do. So why am I not going to stay at this meeting, you know? And then, you know, it came out later that I had invited myself to the meeting. And, you know, it just so happens my boss at the time was a female. And she goes, great job. You know, and I'm like, what was I supposed to do? You know, so I say that, you know, I think that a lot of things like that have happened over the course of my career that I can recount. And I attribute it to the naivety. You know, it was just that, you know, this is where I'm supposed to be. You know, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to deliver. I was at the time very, very performance driven. And so it's just like, I need to deliver this. And this is the path by which I need to deliver it. And then there was no question as to who did it or not. it was always, well, I know Sherrika did it because one, she just stirred up the whole place and invited herself to a meeting and, and did all
Making a
those kind of
scene.
and I'm just kind of walking around all, naive about the whole thing. But I think that's how I've managed to avoid, someone else getting credit for my work. Now, there was one particular incident where I was filing a patent. Well, actually, someone else was filing a patent on my work. And when the attorneys were looking over the work, they kept seeing this number. And it was my lab notebook number. And so it got traced back to me like, okay, so why isn't this person filing the patent who the lab notebook belongs to? How are you filing the patent? And so I ended up getting the patent, but I would have never known that someone else was trying to file a patent on my work. Had I not, documented and, had basically my lab notebook number was on everything. And so it got traced back to me. So that was the only time that I can think of where something was kind of brewing, and someone else was about to get credit for my work.
It's all like that little molecule just
going
right on through.
Well, actually Dr. Waldo Seaman, right, who patented PVC. He was the first person. It had been invented by 2 other people before him, but he was the first one to patent it. He was pulling a little Matilda effect. I don't know if the women. No, I think the other 2 were men, but maybe the people working for them who actually did the work were women.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it's been a great run. It's been a really great run. I think one of the latest things is I got a chance to co-author a book. And it's called Embracing Your STEM Smarts. And it has been really, really good because
it is 5-star rated on Amazon. And I do own a copy of it.
Yes.
It's buried somewhere in my house, but
you have a signed copy.
No, I didn't get a signed copy. I just ordered it off of Amazon. No, because I'm lazy and I order things right off of Amazon. I wanted it now.
We'll have to make that happen.
Okay.
For you, Lynzie.
Yes, I will bring it.
But it was really cool because it came at a time where a lot of things were just happening. It was like right at the beginning of COVID, and the George Floyd incident had happened, and it was just things were just being, for me, blown up. I was super, super sensitive as to, what it was to be a woman in science because, like I said, COVID was happening. So I'm coming from the mom perspective. How do I keep my family safe, during this time? And then when the thing happened with George Floyd, and he yells out for his mom, I'm sitting in my break room at the time, and there was not a woman within a 2-mile radius who could understand how that felt and, just relate with me at the moment. And so it was just like, I got to get back on my grind just so that I can advocate for more women to be in science, just so we can have somebody to play with that work. And so the book was really, really good. And I was able to kind of voice some of those things and, what was created for me as a safe space to be able to say, these are the challenges that I've had, and these are the things that I hope to see for us in the future in the STEM industry. So get a copy. It's a good one.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to wait for the signed one because
Yeah.
So we can find it on Amazon. Are there other places we can find it? Do you have a website or?
You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Sherrika Sanders, PhD. I've had a lot of folks reach out to me through that route, and I'll get a signed copy mailed out to you.
Listen, if it's on Amazon, I consider it the most legit. And I know that is probably shilling for big companies, but
don't go directly to the author. Get it. Just
once you're on Amazon,
you know that it has that authentication molecule in there.
Yes.
We're gonna know yours is not real. It's funny because my son, he's looking at the shapes of the different Prime bottles. I don't know if your kids are all into Prime now, but this hydration.
I've not my kids, but I have heard all about it. That it is the coolest drink.
So he was like, this one's legit, this one's not, this one's legit.
And I didn't know there was black market Prime.
Right. And so then I was like, how are you saying? He was like, because of the shape of the bottle. Look at the shape of the bottle. I was like, honey, that is not a way to determine if something is legit or not. I was like, it probably came from a different manufacturing facility that has a slight difference in their molds.
Right. Let me tell you what's actually happening here.
Right. It's funny though.
Oh, I love that. I love that that's even like a concern, because like at the bare minimum, it's getting them to recognize like the processes and, you know, that you get to explain the different, you know, factors that go into that. So I love that.
Oh yeah, and I drag them along with me all the time. You're going to this panel discussion about college. You're going, and I mean, they've been here before, so they know the whole manufacturing process. They actually like hanging out more in the guys with the plant than they do up here with me. But yeah, they're buddies.
I love that so much. Well, I think we're just about out of time. And I hear one of my children losing their mind in the other room, which I'm like texting.
As long as he's not vomiting on you.
No, not at the moment. We're good. We're good. We're gonna have pizza for dinner, so talk to me in about a couple hours.
Yeah. Call me crying. I'll be there.
Yeah. But Sherrika, this was just an incredible conversation. Obviously, we could talk to you for probably another 6 hours without any hesitation on our part. You might hesitate, but we could be fine. So we're so appreciative you could be here. And yeah, everyone go buy her book on Amazon or just talk to the author, I suppose.
Thank you guys for having me so much. I've had a lot of fun with you guys today.
Thank you.